Let's take you to the big game of the day, which was Ohio State hosting Notre Dame. First time they've met in the regular season since 1996. That brings the stars out. LeBron, Chase Young, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Marcus Freeman against his alma mater, and the Buckeyes ready to go in front of the revved-up crowd. In the shoe, there is C.J. Stroud, the Heisman favorite coming into the year. Jackson Smith and Jigba here in motion, gets a little screen pass. It's a big hit there from Brandon Joseph, and Smith and Jigba injured his leg, would go out of the game, tried on several occasions to get back in there, and was in briefly. More on that in a bit, but 4 plays later, from the Irish 31, Emeka Egbuka, 31 yards for the score, and that put the Buckeyes on top 7-3. There's Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator. This, of course, a big story. Here comes Tommy Eichenberg, Jared.
Yeah, he times up the blitz perfect. They've got all the offensive linemen occupied, and he hits the quarterback.
OSU forced 2 straight 3-and-outs after going up 7-3. How about Jim Tressel, the 0-2
Sweater vest.
You have to wear the sweater vest when you're Jim Tressel. Got a whole closet full of them. Tyler Buckner to Matt Salerno. Beautiful catch there. And a 22-yard gain on a 3rd and 2. Audric Estime takes it into the end zone. Kept off a 10-play drive. Freeman's pumped. And the Irish shot top 10-7. After the half, Smith and Jigba talking to Stroud was done for the game. So who would step up in his absence, he asked rhetorically. And the answer was... well, it was Egbuka. It was Stroud buying time, though. That was a great scramble there, 16 yards.
Jake, he was asking for an answer.
There's a couple guys today, Jerry.
How about Xavier Johnson, 24 yards here, his first career catch. And that puts Ohio State on top 14-10. Mid-fourth quarter, this is where they salted it away. A 14-play, 95-yard drive. Mayan Williams was great on this drive, Howard.
Oh, we're talking about keeping those shoulders square, strong. Really elevated his game today.
14 carries, 84 yards. The touchdown there. Travion Henderson went for 91. They ran for 172 as a team. Williams had 7 touches on that drive. How about Mike Hall Jr.? The sack on Buckner, 11-yard loss. The OSU defense pitching a second-half shutout to win it 21-10.
We have to be able to win that way. We do. We have to find ways to win like that because there's going to be games, certainly in the Big Ten, like that. Notre Dame's kind of built like some of the Big Ten teams we play. And so, for teams that want to run the ball and then, eat up the clock and keep the offense off the field, and we have to run the ball in those moments like we did. We had to do that. And that was something that we spent a lot of time on the offseason saying we have to be able to win ugly on offense. And we have to stop the run on defense. And that's what happened tonight.
I do think in the past game when we really needed it, we were efficient. We were struggling early on, just trying to get a connection, trying to build that rhythm. But, towards the end, as we kept going, we started to get it, we started clicking more. So, we're playing the number 5 team in the country first game. First games are always kind of weird. It's kind of weird being out there again, to be honest, just like seeing the fans, dealing with all the outside noise, just trying to lock in. So, at the end of the day, I feel like at the end of the day, we got the win, and we're blessed to be 1-0.
Guys, awfully impressive second-half performance, particularly in the fourth quarter by Ohio State with their backs up against the wall. The defense really stepped up throughout the game. What stood out the most to you about the win, Howard?
To me, it was the players that stood up. And when you talk about Johnson running that route, it was a 3rd down, it was 3rd and 11. He did an unbelievable job of getting the corner turned around. Center of the field was wide open. And CJ just was patient at that particular point because nothing was coming for him. Notre Dame was playing everything deep. He had to keep everything in front of the underneath routes. Notre Dame decided to bring both safeties. He was patient enough. There was a great route run, and they connected. And that's really the small things that happen in a game, but you have to be patient. And he showed the patience that you need to be a leader in this game.
Yeah, I didn't think this was a good win. I thought this was a great win. And here's why. It was a tough win. And Ohio State needs tough wins. I thought it was a great win because the tailbacks had 175 yards. I thought it was a great win because at the end of the game, when they had to run it, and we talk about Ohio State all about short yardage, the times that when they have to run it, can they run it? As you said, they took it over at the end of the game. And the other thing is next they have Arkansas State, then they have Toledo, and then they have Wisconsin. That is a beautiful schedule after a great win.
Certainly, you find out a lot about your team when you're tested. And they were tested earlier today, losing their top receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba. You build so much chemistry with your quarterback throughout the offseason. It felt like C.J. Stroud was just a little uncomfortable. It took him a while to figure out who was going to be his go-to guy to replace that beast of a receiver in Njigba. It was an offense by commission before finally Mayan Williams really put his stamp on that game with physical running on a long drive. Felt like he really drummed up the emotions of the Buckeye offense, punishing some of those Notre Dame linebackers and ending the drive in a touchdown.
Yeah, I thought one of the things, just a second, Robert, I thought one of the things that was significant is we've been talking this entire offseason about what they hadn't been doing, and they did this in the broadcast as well, the offensive line not being physical at the point of attack in big games. They answered a lot of questions today about their physicality up front and whether they can hold up. They lost some battles up there sometime, but they stayed after it, and those running backs really took advantage.
And, let's not forget the defense, right? They held 10 points, right? We've been talking about bad defenses for 2 years now, and they held them 10 points.
Gave up 87 in their last 2 games last year. I mean, it's just an uncharacteristic win. It's a different win, right? This would have been a season-low yardage total last year. They were held under 400 yards in this game. This is the fewest points they've ever won a game with under Ryan Day. They only had 1 play over 30 yards. They had 42 last year. Long play in this game was 31. They had to grind out a win, fellas.
That's why it's a great win. It didn't look like a 7-on-7 game. I mean, it's a great win.
And can you imagine if they clean up the penalties? What were they, 7 for 75? And it happened at some crucial times that allowed Notre Dame to keep moving drives. So they get that part of it cleaned up. I think you're looking at something special.
We thought Notre Dame was going to test him on the ground today, too. Only 76 yards rushing for the Irish, so they answered a lot of questions at Buckeye front seven.
They did. It held Notre Dame to 253 yards. And again, a lot of good storylines. There's certainly, to your guys' points, there are a lot of things that do need to get worked on, and I'm sure that all of those will be addressed. But to prove you can win a game in this manner, all of a sudden gives you a little bit of a different view of what Ohio State can be this year. Michigan hosting Colorado State. You may have heard there's some intrigue surrounding the Wolverines quarterbacks. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Cade McNamara, J.J. McCarthy. It's McNamara's week to start against the Rams, and he made a wise decision. He got it to Roman Wilson, who took it 61 yards for the touchdown. Truthfully, it was not a great game for McNamara. 9 of 18, $136. And a TD, had an apparent interception that was eventually reviewed and overturned, but wasn't his greatest day. No one's overturning that interception. Rod Moore, that would lead to a Michigan field goal. I made it 10-0 in favor of Michigan. Now it's 13-0. Blake Corum for the touchdown. They are up 20, and the route is on. To the third quarter we go. Mike Morris coming up with the hit on Clay Millen, the Colorado State QB, and DJ Turner off to the races, Jake.
Oh, yeah. Big day for this defense. Just constantly disrupting Colorado State in the backfield, making it hard on them, and this time it ended in a defensive touchdown.
Had 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. McCarthy did come into the game, and I think it's fair to say he made an impact. 20-yard touchdown run puts the Wolverines up by 37. And then Donovan Edwards puts him up by 44.
That's a better lead.
Yeah. No, at this point, it was not particularly competitive.
That's understandable.
O-line looked great.
Did indeed.
They did.
Actually went to Alex Orji at quarterback, and he keeps it for the touchdown. The Wolverines win by the final of 51-7. Reaction afterwards, starting with Jim Harbaugh.
I thought things were operating really smooth in the first half. And just finally said, let's get JJ in there, and he was electric when he got in. I don't feel like I have to manage it. It's just they're both tremendous competitors, and both are warriors. I don't feel like I got to manage anything. I just got to let them go out there and compete.
It's just not my decision. So whatever it is, however, whatever my role is, I'm honored, that teammates recognize me for the role that I have currently. This is sort of something that I've been dealing with, whatever part it was in my career, whether it was before I played, with Joe, whether it was, finally going in, whether it was last season and now it's this season. I think, at this point, I have a callus made on how to deal with these things.
We got to give some credit to this defense, though. I mean, they were playing with some confidence themselves. It was a collective effort. We got 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and an interception. Not a bad day at the office. What would you say or how would you describe what they were able to do here today and help you guys get this big win?
They dominated. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of doubt, I feel like, coming into the game. I feel like, the social media and things were like, dang, is this defense going to be able to do what they did last year after losing Hutch and Ojabo and Josh Ross and guys like that? But they came out and dominated on every level, and I'm proud of those guys. They're going to keep stacking. They're going to keep building, and they prepared for this. And they had a great offseason. They had a great camp. I expected nothing less than what they showed today, and I know they're going to be even better.
We'll get to the defense in just a bit, and it was fabulous, but the big story for Michigan is going to be the quarterbacks. It was interesting to listen to Jim Harbaugh and how he characterized things versus Cade McNamara. Look, McCarthy came in, he was 4 of 4, he averaged about 17 yards a carry. You understand there's going to be a little bit of a groundswell for him. It did not sound like McNamara was overly comfortable with the situation.
And he shouldn't be. I mean, he's had to deal with this for a couple of years now. And then really, as he took us through his career, going back to high school, that he's had to deal with looking over his shoulder, even when he's gone out, and whether it's being voted a captain or whether he goes out and performs, he's always finding himself in this type of position. But you have to deal with it. And it definitely looks like he's not comfortable with it. He's fed up with it, but he's just got to continue to play to his best of his abilities to try to keep this a competition.
As a coach, you got to get with him right away. I mean, if it's in the locker room right after the game, if you didn't realize that he was having a problem with it until you got home, you go back to campus, you get face-to-face with someone that's having that kind of issue, and you find out what the issue is, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to get this resolved. You can't let this fester. He's the quarterback. He's a captain. Someone's got to be straight with him.
At some level, I totally understand it because, like you said, Howard, he's dealt with this his entire career where, you look at last year, what he was able to do. He did something no Michigan quarterback has done in nearly 2 decades. You finally beat Ohio State. You're a Big Ten champion. You lead the team to the college football playoff. Rightfully so, you feel this should be your starting job, but I think it speaks on the talent of JJ. So excited to see JJ take the field and start next week, but, JJ put some good things on film today in his own right.
JJ changes the offense significantly. Not that he'll carry it a ton, but you will have to defend him every snap that he gets because he'll do this and he'll be gone if you're not defending.
He might not carry it a ton, but he's certainly going to keep it every now and then. Yeah. And when he does, the place is going to erupt.
But it's going to stop one defender from pursuing.
Yeah,
one defender is going to be responsible for him, and that one defender is not going to be chasing down any of the ball carriers.
Have to account for it.
It freezes the defense.
Speaking of defenses, Michigan's was pretty good. What did you see?
Oh, man. I mean, we spent so much time talking about this quarterback battle and trying to dissect Jim Harbaugh's comments. We forgot one of the big narratives is how do they replace Aiden Hutchinson? How do they replace David Ojabo? Well, it wasn't one guy specifically that stood out today. I thought it was the defensive front as a whole. 7 sacks, 11 tackles for losses. Jesse Minter really put his stamp on this defense, and they did it generating pressure without sacrificing or making themselves vulnerable in the back end. They felt that the back end was in position the entire day, and, they'll face tougher tests than Colorado State, but what they put on film today gives you a lot of confidence that they're going to make opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable throughout this season.
Offensively, Sharon Moore, first game he's called, 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing, balanced offense. I think that's a great way to start his career calling plays.
A lot of players played on the defensive side. They got a lot of guys, some experience, some opportunities, and that's going to bode well for them as they continue to build this defense because I think it's really about the entire group of players. There are going to be some guys that are going to rise to the top, but this defense is going to be built each and every week. So it'll be a new player, I think, stepping up to make plays for him.
This was a confident team when we were at practice. I mean, you could just feel the difference from all the previous years we've been going there.
Now 17-0 in non-conference home games under Jim Harbaugh. I like their chances to get to 18-0 next week against Hawaii, a game that you can see right here.
So too.
I'm going out on a limb. That's my bold prediction.
You'll try to sneak that through.
I might try to get that through the committee.
The committee will never.
Elsewhere, Wisconsin hosting Illinois State. Let's check out the action in that one. How about Zach Annexstad, the former Gopher QB, led a really nice drive for Illinois State until that particular moment when John Torchio picked it off, and Torchio is gone. 100 yards for the touchdown. That is the 15th 100-yard interception return in Big Ten history, the first in 19 years. Badgers on top early, and then Braylon Allen, while we're on the topic of big plays.
Yeah, there you go.
96 yards. That is the longest touchdown run in school history, the third longest in Big Ten history, and the longest since 1987. The big plays were coming fast and furious. Graham Mertz, Chimere Dike, 16-yard touchdown. Mertz threw for 219. Wisconsin wins it 38-0, now 7-0 in home openers under head coach Paul Chryst.
Proud of the effort that the guys put in all week, and then anytime we get to play this game, to get a chance to win, it involves a lot of contributions, and we had that. What's great about the game is there is no script. It's how you react to different situations. The one thing that the guys did do was they stayed steady through that and kept playing. It was good to start this season.
Well, this was our first look at the new system that Bobby Ingram is running here, Jerry, and I'd say it was fairly balanced. 221 rushing yards, 219 passing yards. That pretty much defines balance. What else stood out?
Nothing more than that for me. I mean, the running game was strong, but to see Graham Mertz throw it, as you said, for 219 yards. And I think in years past, maybe they were going to win this game either way, right? Illinois State was really struggling on defense, so they didn't really have to throw it to win, but Bobby took it upon himself to get the pass game in there, and I thought that's where they made the most progress.
Well, you mentioned the yardage from Mertz, 14 to 16. So that's pretty good. That's a confidence builder. And I know the competition, don't worry about that part of it, but I think it's important that he continues to build his confidence as a passer.
Last year, he had 10 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So we're not asking him to be C.J. Stroud, but, to help this offense, can you get to that 18 touchdown, 7 interception range, balance the play action with Braylon Allen and a strong rushing attack? And remember, he was a 5-star. Getting him back to that confidence level, understanding his full potential, this was a huge step in the right direction for him.
It'd be interesting to look at the formations, too. It's hard to see all the formations today. We were watching a couple games, but to break down the game tape and see how Bobby incorporated some new formations.
While we're on the topic of coordinators, Jim Leonard, pretty good unit they got there, despite all of the losses of personnel. The 9th shutout of the Paul Chryst era.
That's what we say. Jim Leonard's coaching those guys. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. Season opener for Iowa, taking on the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. Picking up in the second quarter. It's 3-0 Iowa. Spencer Petras picked off. Had a tough day, Petras did. 11 of 25, 109 passing yards. Tied at 3 at the half. The story of this game became Torrey Taylor, the fabulous punter for Iowa. 5 punts inside the 10-yard line, including this one that pinned the Jackrabbits at the 1. And on the ensuing drive, the very first play, Jack Campbell knifing through and gets the safety. They held South Dakota State to 120 yards of offense. So Iowa takes a 5-3 lead as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning. No, fourth quarter, still 5-3. Taylor punting again. This time knocks it out at the 10. He had 10 punts in the game, 7 inside the 20. And yes, this man came prepared. I cheer for the punter. There was a lot to cheer about. A lot to cheer about for the defense, too. Joe Evans creates the safety there. Iowa wins 7-3 on a field goal and 2 safeties. Petras well aware they still have some work to do.
You can practice football as much as you want, but there's nothing quite like, being in there for a game. And, obviously, we need to grow offensively, and I think we will. I don't think this is representative of our offense at all. But that's the only performance that we've had so far this year. So I think, as a unit, we're really excited to move on and to, try and beat Iowa State next week.
I've still got a lot of confidence in them. And,
think the noise on the outside is probably a lot louder than it is inside. I've got total confidence in him. He practices well. He's a great young guy. I don't anticipate any changes at this point, no. So, our job collectively right now is to get better. And, he's got some ownership. We all have ownership, every coach, every player, and that's our job to get better week to week.
You saw the numbers, just 166 total yards for the Hawkeyes, fewest for any Big Ten team in a win since 2004. Howard, what do you make of the offense?
I don't know.
Well, it's your job.
I know it is, but I've been watching the same thing, and I haven't seen it get better. I know when I look at this team, I know defensively they're going to go out and make plays, put their offense in position to make plays at times, short field. But it just doesn't seem that it clicks. I don't know what we are supposed to get excited about right now. I understand internally they feel confident in what they're doing, but it's tough right now to watch how they're going to be competitive, although they did this last year. But how are they going to be competitive playing the game the way they play it?
All right, it's not your job. It's Kirk Ferentz's job, right? And he told you what he's going to do, Rever. He's just going to keep doing what they're doing and hope it gets better. He can't change offenses. He can't change players. He can't change his schedule. He's stuck in this box with an ugly offense, and he's going to have to try to improve it the best he can. He has no other alternative. He tries
Got
to
an
get
awfully good defense.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a
Great
punt game, too. I mean, give Phil Parker both the offense and the defensive game ball. He scored some points and held him out of the end zone. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm serious. There's nothing you can do. You keep working at it.
Let me take a stab at it.
Take a stab.
Please do.
Best receiver, Keegan Johnson, didn't play.
Fair point.
Top running back, Gavin Williams, didn't play.
Another fair point.
Now, do these guys all of a sudden make them the top offense in the Big Ten? No.
I'm not going to answer that.
Would you assume that they might improve getting those guys back? I would hope so.
Great point.
I would hope so.
Great point.
Yeah.
That's right.
7 points, the fewest for a Big Ten team in a win since the famous 6-4 victory for the Hawkeyes over Penn State in 2004. So, been a while since we've seen a performance like that, but it is a win, and Scott Frost in Nebraska desperately wanted one of those as well on Saturday, taking on North Dakota, picking up in the first quarter. Anthony Grant was outstanding against Northwestern, picked up right where he left off, 19 yards there. First drive again. They scored a touchdown to go up 7-0, and then did not score the rest of the half. North Dakota able to tie it up just before the break. Adam Zavalny there caps off an 80-yard drive, so it's 7-7 at the half. To the second, Casey Thompson, Nate Borkersher. Thompson threw for $193. The Huskers go back on top 14-7. Later in the third, it is Thompson picked off. Wyatt Pettigo brings it all the way back inside the Husker 10. And North Dakota in business and able to make it pay off as Tyler Huseman walks into the end zone to tie it at 17, and not looking great for Frost and company. Ensuing drive, though, it is Grant making something happen, just keeps the legs churning. How good has this guy been?
I would go with real good.
Real good. Second straight week of 100 or more rushing yards, 189 on this day, and then it's A.J. Allen, the freshman, 14-yard touchdown there as Nebraska pulls away late, 38-17. Rick Pizzo with Scott Frost.
Scott, I know you'll have more thoughts after you watch the film, but what's your initial assessment, both good and bad?
There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. We stunk on offense in the first half. We found a lot better rhythm in the second half, put our kids in position to make plays. 2 games in a row, we preached turnover margin all the time. We were negative in turnover margin both games. Made some dumb plays on special teams that I know our kids have gotten coached on because I've been in the meetings. Better to learn in a win than in a loss, so we have a lot of things that we can fix and become a better football team.
Relied a lot on Anthony Grant in that second half. What did he show you today?
We got a lot of good backs. We needed Anthony today, and he made a couple special plays for us. Some of the other guys deserved to play too, but he had a special day.
Seem to rededicate themselves to the run game, guys. 244 rushing yards, had just 110 against the Wildcats last week. Look, they needed any old kind of win. It's their first since October 2nd of last year, And that's the positive you have to take from it, Jake, and that they played better as the game went on.
Certainly. Going forward, some teams, they're playing good ball, and it's about how do we raise our floor? How do we squeeze a little bit more out of this? For Nebraska, it's about cleaning up some of these simple mistakes. That's going to allow them to play better football. That comes down to discipline. We'll see if they get it corrected going forward.
That's the mental approach. Well, I think what they didn't stumble on, what they got to the second half is the quarterback and the tailback run. 63 rushing yards the first half, 181 the second half. That quarterback put that ball in the stomach of that halfback a ton of times compared to last week when they did it none.
See, when they ran the ball the way they did today, they used to call them I-backs. So maybe they got to get back to the I-back.
Yeah, Mike Rozier.
Yeah, the I-back. That's when they were running the ball. That's how they look today.
They were indeed. And again, second straight week over 400 yards of offense. So there are plenty of positives. See if they can continue to put it together. They go Oklahoma looming here in a couple of weeks. On a limb with predictions on this show. Buffalo and Maryland, Mike Loxley. Remember earlier in the week, he named Roman Hemby as his starting running back. This could be why, Howard.
Had a nice stiff arm and was able to finish the drive. He really stepped up today and had some huge runs.
7-0 in favor of the Terps. Antoine Littleton, a couple yards out. 17-7 at the half. And how about more from Hemby here, Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty explosive run plays, and they had several of them in this game.
70 yards. Sean Merriman, the former Terp. Yeah, well, you always count on Jerry. 114 yards on just 7 carries for Hemby. And let's not forget about Talia Tagovailoa to Rakim Jarrett. 35 yards pushed out at the 9. Jarrett went over 100 yards for the 5th time in his career. And then it is Littleton over the top as Maryland cruises 31-10. Megan McEwen with the winners.
Coach, 437 yards of total offense for your Terps today. What impressed you most about your ability to get the ball flying around?
I like the way we came back out in the second half. Wasn't real happy with both offensively and defensively how we finished the first half. And, they played pretty hard the second half. We established the run a little bit better. We got some explosive plays out of the backfield. But we're going to need to be more consistent and, again, find a way to stop being so penalized.
You talk about establishing the run. Roman Hemby had a fantastic game on the ground, rushed for more than 100 yards. What impressed you most about his performance?
Just the consistency. Rome's been doing that all summer. That's why he was the first guy out of the stable with the running backs. He showed today the home run speed that we knew he had. Obviously, the big guys up front, minus the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, where we need to play lower with better leverage. I thought our backs ran hard today.
We did a great job getting in the playbook and, watching film, and everything just panned out, and, we stuck to the process. So I feel like that's just a glimpse of what we have potential to do this season.
Coach has spoken to how important it is to consistently get the run game going. What were you able to do today with your fellow running backs in order to keep that consistent?
Just sticking to the plan that we had, point out. We knew that it wasn't going to be perfect the whole game, but, trusting it, and the big runs come, and, you just got to stick to it.
A lot of talk about the offense there, and justifiably so. But, Jerry, they give up 10 points. This is the 3rd game coordinated by Brian Williams. They've given up a total of 36 points in those 3 games.
Yeah, continued defensive improvements really the key to their season. We all know they're explosive. We know they have players. They've got to get better on defense, and Brian Williams has gotten them there in the 3 games that he's coordinated.
I think this team continues to be explosive, particularly when you think about the wide receivers, almost averaging 12 yards per completion, right? I think that's significant when you talk about trying to be explosive. You couple that with the way they're playing defense right now, big things can happen for this team.
A lot of the offseason was talked about this receiving core and Talia Tagovailoa, but these backs today, they got 148 yards on only 13 carries, and they did it with speed. They did it with physicality. Going forward, what helps, and I'm a guy that likes to catch passes, but what helps your passing game is an explosive run game, and it forces those defenses to come up and play the run. It opens up some deeper throws behind that defense.
83 yards and penalties is a problem.
Yeah, it is. And that's been an ongoing issue and something that Locks is concerned about, and you better believe they will hear about it. But still, 11 straight wins in non-conference openers. That is the 2nd longest streak in the league.